corruption in the last 20 years, in line with the UN Convention Against Corruption theme of UN UNCAC at 20, uniting the world against corruption.
Vincent Okongo said the commission will give a report on the status of the corruption in the country, going by this year's theme, Uniting Against Corruption. He also added that the commission will also give a report from a survey that have conducted outlining how various government entities and county governments are performing the fight against the graft.
That is going to help Murang'a County to know where the weaknesses, where the challenges are, and make recommendations on what they need to do to strengthen accountability, improve service delivery to the people of Murang'a County. We are also soon going to release a survey report that ranks national government entities as well as the county government on how they are faring on. The preliminary findings are that Murang'a County is not doing very badly.
Recently, the commission raised a red flag over the increased corruption in the counties, calling for the enhancement measures to curb it. On his part, Governor Irungu Kang'ata said the administration has put in measures to curb corruption in the system.
Kama county tumejaribu kung'ang'ana na ufisadi kwa njia mbalimbali. La kwanza ni mfanyikazi yote ambaye atakuwa ameshtakiwa na mambo ya ufisadi, bila shaka tutachukua.
Kang'ata also revealed that he has ordered 2 county government employees to pay back 800 shillings each, which they allegedly squandered while undertaking the project. He also said the automation of the system is also a major milestone in the fight against graft.
Kunaye ambaye kwa hivi sasa tumemwambia arudishe takriban 1800. Kunaye pia mwingine tumemwambia hivyo ambaye yuko katika idara ya ukulima. Pili, tumeleta mambo ya automation. Watu wanatumia mbinu za kisasa kulipa pesa mbalimbali, kwa mfano parking cess zile zinalipwa katika soko zetu. Pia kuna hospitali watu wanalipa pesa na njia za kisasa.
Murang'a County Commander David Kainga said the National Police Service has taken its position in the fight against corruption, urging the officers to be integrity-driven.
We have taken our position as police officers to enlighten them that they are supposed to make sure that they are integrity-driven, and that anyone that is found involved in an element of corruption, it will be at his own peril. He has to carry his or her own cross. And in addition to that, we are ready to investigate any matters that are corruption related, and we are prepared.
Choromo Dennis, EBN TV, Prime Edition.
Now, drama was on Tuesday witnessed in Parliament as legislators staged a walkout over state's failure to release money meant for the National Government Constituency Development Fund. The members of Parliament who are set to proceed on recess on Thursday ended a plenary session prematurely and broke into chants. A section of the lawmakers even blocked the entrance of Parliament and barred their colleagues from gaining access to the floor of the House, with National Assembly Majority Whip Silvanus Osoro being one of those who were forcefully ejected from the House.
Honorable TJ Kajwang, I have not completed the sentence. Honorable members, honorable members,
actually in the process of working on disbursement so that by the time we break, now,
honorable members, order, honorable members, honorable members, the point is being made.
The DF committee can confirm we must act with equity so that no constituency is left behind. There are about 36 constituencies whose proposals are yet to be received by the CDF committee. And what we have requested, I was asked to also request the 36 members of parliament whose NGCDF committees And let me repeat again, for the interest of those who are fond of going to court. It is not the members of parliament for the 36 constituencies. It is the 36 members of parliament to cause, in their oversight role, their NGCDF committees to submit proposals to the board so that they are not left behind.
It is for the people of my constituency who are more important than any other thing being in this house in terms of any hierarchy or any position which I hold.
Now, the Controller of Budget, Margaret Nyakango, has been granted granted release on a 2 million shillings bond with the option of a similar surety of 500,000 Kenyan shillings in cash. This follows her plea of not guilty to 4 charges in a Mombasa court on Tuesday, November 5th, where she was one of 11 individuals implicated in offences including conspiracy to defraud, operating an unlicensed circle, forgery, and uttering false documents. The charges stem from an inquiry file initiated by the Director of Public Prosecutions, or DPP, and handed over to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI. Nyakango and the 10 others were found culpable after a thorough examination of new evidence, according to the inquiry file. Azimio leaders Raila Odinga and Martha Karua have condemned the arrest and arraignment of the Controller of Budget, Margaret Nyakango, terming it as political witch hunt.
I hereby admit her to a bond in the sum of Kenya shillings 2 million with one surety of similar amount. There is an alternative of Kenya shillings 500,000 cash bail. Summons to issue, that is against the other 10 who are not in court today.
Well, and that will be forming the basis of what has made it to the newspapers. We'll be taking a deeper look into that in just a bit. However, President William Ruto, on a 3-day state visit to India, emphasized on the strong and long-standing friendship between the two nations, and the head of state was welcomed with a ceremonial reception at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, expressed his commitment to consolidating the diplomatic ties that date back to 1948. In a press conference, President William Ruto commended India's digital advancements, announcing Kenya's intention to sign agreements in the digital space.
India and Kenya are great friends. We've had diplomatic engagement at different levels from way back in 1948, even before the independence of Kenya. And I have come to India this time round at the invitation of Madam President and my good friend, the Prime Minister. And my expectation is that we need to consolidate the relationship between Kenya and India. We are looking at how we can create partnership in the space of rural development, especially agriculture. We'll be looking at a space of how we can share in manufacture of vaccines, both for animal and human. We're looking at what we can do about genomics. We will be signing an agreement on also the digital space. We have a lot to learn from this great country, especially in the digital space. We have already, I did send from Kenya our Ministry of ICT to pick up lessons on digital ID, digitizing government services, leveraging on the enabler nature of technology in providing government service, which India has done very well. We will be signing an MOU in that space. We will also be looking at areas of business, what we can do to enhance the business relationship between our two countries. I share a lot in common with the Prime Minister of India on what we need to do, especially those of us from the Global South, on matters to do with the reform of the international financial architecture to make it much more fit for purpose and to ensure that it serves everybody equally and in a balanced and democratized manner, and a lot of other things that we will be discussing this afternoon and this morning with the government of India. And I want to say to to both the President and Prime Minister, thank you very much for welcoming me to India.
Now, a little earlier than that, President William Ruto met the President of the United Arab Emirates, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, on the sidelines of the COP28 in Dubai. Kenya and the United Arab Emirates have committed to work closely to increase the value of trade, and the two countries will also exploit the long-standing relations to enhance bilateral investments. President William Ruto said robust trade relations will ensure that Kenya expands its values of exports to the United Arab Emirates, which stands at 34.6 billion shillings a year. Ruto also held talks with President of Kosovo, Josa Vosmani, and the two leaders agreed to work together on issues of common interest. Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki has announced the government's plan to refocus on the operation and performance of reserve police officers across the country. And Kindiki pointed out that the NPR officers will have their leaders work under police officers. NPR will also have their offices in the buildings where chief officers or officers are located and in police stations across the country.
Omba radhi kwa yale ambayo yalitendeka. Na mimi nimesema ya kwamba tumejitolea kuhakikisha kwamba tukishirikiana na nyinyi hii shida tumeimaliza. Tutaongeza idadi ya NPRs hapa. Sababu NPRs wanasaidiana sana na maafisa wetu. Na hao ndio first line of defense. Yes. Na tumesema vile NPR watafanya kazi kwa ushirikiano na officers wetu kuhakikisha hao wa majangili wakijaribu kitu ingine kabla hata ya chochote tumewalalisha chini. Na wakijaribu kutoroka tutatumia mbinu zote za ardhi, za angani tuhakikishe ya kwamba tumewakomesha. So tutaongeza hiyo NPRs, tutaongeza camps za security ambazo zinahitajika. Tumeangalia mahali wanapenyea, tunaziba hizo nafasi, na vile vile tunaenda kufungua barabara mpya za security za pande hii.
Kama ingewezekana, mimi nataka mambo ya disarmament, mambo ya bunduki wote aberekwe, kwa sababu bunduki ndio inamaliza watu. Kama hii watu wako kwa na bunduki bana maliza watu kama hii. Sasa disarmament tunataka nyinyi serikali, tunaomba waziri kama na wasekana fanye hii kazi.
Na msitu ambaye kama hiyo msitu serikali wangechunga kabisa, wasiingilie kwa lami huku, lami ya kwenda Kinyang hiyo, wasifuke hii msitu. Hii msitu wanajifuka ndani. Hakuna mtu anafikia ndani sababu hakuna mabarabara. Na ni kubwa hii msitu kutoka pale, kutoka huko chini. Sasa barabara hata wakitaka serikali wakitaka kukava ng'ombe, wanaenda mbali au wanaweza kama msituni tu. Hii msitu tu ingetolewa ndani kabisa, itolewe yote.
Okay. Sawa.
All right, so do allow us to take a quick short break. But when we come back, I'll be taking you through the newspapers, what has made it to the headlines of the Daily Nation, the Standard, and the Star. Stay with us.
Watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
Walisema mnywa maji kwa mkono mmoja,
kiu yake ipo pale pale, ndiposa tumekuletea wewe mtazamaji wetu
mkono mwingine ili kukata kiu yako na ari yako ya ufahamu.
Naam, ngoma imechezwa mtazamaji, basi hatuna budi kulisakata kukuletea wewe ufahamu wa kaunti yako,
tukiangazia masuala ya siasa na uongozi,
jamii na itikadi,
maendeleo na changamoto katika kaunti yako. Ungana nami Belinda William,
nami Emmanuel Marwa
kwenye makala ya Gatuzi Langu kila siku ya Jumatatu saa 5:30 hadi saa 6:30.
In a fast-paced world filled with distractions, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. your relationship with God. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we take you on a transformative journey of building your faith, without which it's impossible to please God. A journey of introspection and discovery of who you are in Christ Jesus.
For you to walk with God, you should not crumble when you come under pressure. Kama umeokoka, sema umeokoka mpaka mbele ya president, mpaka mbele ya chief justice, mpaka mbele ya kila mtu. Hiyo ndio kuokoka ya ukweli. Kuokoka ya ukweli.
Enjoy a faith-filled environment of worship and ministry of the word every Tuesday and Thursdays from 9 a.m. with Reverend Felix Kevoy, exclusively on EBN TV.
Through the morning rush and the buzz, find a voice you can trust, a voice of reason, a voice of direction, and a voice of hope.
Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Live. I'm Cynthia Nanjala.
And I'm Sammy Adika. Rise and shine, folks. We hope you are ready for an energizing start to your day.
Absolutely. We are here to bring you the latest headlines and trending news stories from the world of politics,
business and finance, health and lifestyle,
agriculture and sports.
So grab your coffee, sit back and get ready for a fantastic morning of engaging discussions and news segments.
Join us through our social media handles, #The Morning Live. This is Morning Live, exclusively on EBN TV. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Let's take a look at the stories making headlines on the newspapers. I do have with me the Daily Nation, the Standard, and the Star. And I'll kick it off with the Daily Nation. One of the stories that we had, ran a bit earlier on the control of budget, Margaret Nyakango. Well, Daily Nation says under siege, and the controversy around her arrest and her detention. Azimio leader Raila Odinga claims case against Dr. Nyakango is politically motivated. So under siege, control of budget, Margaret Nyangate Nyakango is facing a battle to save her job after the state filed 4 fraud-related charges against her, which could set the stage for her removal from office. The charges against Nyakango, who recently disclosed suspicious inflation of salary budgets, stem from a complaint made against her 9 years ago. Well, that is a story that is on page 7 of the Daily Nation. And Nyakango appeared before Mombasa court where she was charged with fraud, forgery, operating a SACCO without license, and uttering false document. Well, those are the 4 charges she is facing: fraud, forgery, operating an unlicensed SACCO, as well as uttering false documents. She, however, denied those charges and was freed on a 500,000 Kenyan shillings cash bail and an alternative bond of 2 million shillings. Her case will be mentioned is set for December 13th. Now, one of the controversies, of course, surrounding this arrest comes on the backdrop of her expose, saying that, she found out a couple of months ago that she was being paid double her salary, and that she made that particular complaint. And of course, there's Mio leaders, Raila Odinga and Martha Karua, have termed that particular arrest as political witch hunt. And as the Nation puts it, she had disclosed suspicious inflation of salary budgets. She had disclosed suspicious inflation of salary budgets. Basically, what is supposed to be paid to a particular employer is not it. It is paid more than what is supposed to be paid. Now, Nyakango recently rubbed the government the wrong way when she disclosed suspicious inflation of salary budgets for constitutional office holders and holds one of the independent offices created by the 2010 Constitution to act as a guardrail against profligacy in government. She is answerable to Parliament and enjoys a security of tenure for a single 8-year non-renewable term. Well, she got into office in 2019, taking over after Agnes Odhiambo as the controller of budget. Now, the COB can only be removed from office in the case of a serious violation of the Constitution or any other law, including contravention of Chapter 6 of the Constitution, which touches on leadership and integrity, gross misconduct, whether in the performance of official functions or otherwise, could also cost the holder of the office or their job. So she can only be removed from office in the case of a serious violation of the Constitution, which basically touches on matters leadership and integrity. So what is at play here is that she's being questioned on her integrity to particular, hold that office after being, of course, charged with fraud and forgery and, operating an unlicensed circle. So there's no integrity surrounding that particular kind of charge. So those are some of the ways that she can be removed from office. And the removal of the over control of budget follows the same path as that of any other independent offices, which means that if found guilty of fraud, a tribunal would have to be set up to determine if there are sufficient grounds to remove her from office. So, the offences that Nyakango faces are alleged to have been committed on diverse dates between November 1st, 2019 and May 1st of 2020. Yesterday, Azimio la Umoja leader Raila Odinga linked the charges brought against Nyakango to her recent squabbles with the executive, saying that the case is politically motivated. In a press statement that was released by Raila Odinga, it read, and I quote, "The arrest was always coming in light of her determination to act professionally and with integrity in a regime infested by crooks and unprofessional conduct. It was only a matter of when, not if, Ms. Nyakango was going to be sent packing on frivolous and trumped-up charges to create room for user-friendly holders of the office who will support and sanitize the looting currently underway." So, whether it's coincidence, whether it's just on timing, but it comes, of course, after, just a few days after she released that expose, or at least, stated that before the National Assembly, before the National Dialogue Committee, before the National Dialogue Committee, that is the NADCO, that there have been inflation of salary budgets for particular offices within the national government. Well, a few days after that, then here she is arrested and facing charges within the corridors of court. Well, she is currently out on bail. However, there have been a lot of controversy and reactions over that particular arrest and whether or not it's politically motivated or it is actually what is happening. Now, the accusations leveled against the controller of budget, of course, directly contravene the provisions of the Constitution on leadership and integrity. That is the Chapter 6 of the Constitution on leadership and integrity. And those are one of the grounds for the removal of office of the Controller of Budget, an office that was created independently in the Constitution. And she, is liable to answer to the National Assembly. Now, if found culpable of those charges by the corridors of courts, well, a tribunal will be put up in place to also independently verify those particular charges. And if she's found guilty, then she will be out of office. Now, this particular office, the holder can be in it for a non-renewable term of 8 years, meaning she got into office in 2019 and she would have served to 2027 or will serve to 2027, just depending on what the future for Margaret Nyakango looks like. So let me just take again what led to this. Now, last month, Nyakango while appearing before a committee of the National Assembly, said that her salary budget was inflated by the National Treasury by more than 3 times. And she says, when she was doing the budget for the Consolidated Fund Service, where she is paid from, she found out that her salary was budgeted at 3 times what she is paid, and she's the only state officer in the institution, so there is no confusion over that. The Consolidated Fund Service takes care of all government's fast charge items, including payments of debts, pension, salaries for constitutional office holders, and subscriptions to international organizations. So the remarks by Nyakango, who also criticized the country's borrowing appetite, upset senior government officials who were asked by MPs to respond to the claims. She denied those particular charges in court before Magistrate Alex Mudhuku or Idhuku, and was released on a 2 million shillings bond with a surety of 500,000 Kenyan shillings cash bail. No, she's not the only one arrested. She was arrested alongside 10 other persons, including Jackson Wanjao, Susan Kiambati, Jendai, Joan Chumo, among others, who also face the charges of uttering a false document. So that is the latest on the controller of budget, whose face is splashed on top of the Daily Nation, as well as all other newspapers, which we'll be getting to in just a bit. Now, also top of the page of the Daily Nation, it talks about for Amadi, it's time to rest and recharge. And Atieno Amadi's tenure as the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary is coming to an end next month, and like the handy AAA batteries, she refers to herself as AAA, and she has been at the nerve center of the judiciary since 2014 and has an insider's account of the happening over the last decade. So Anne Amadi, the registrar, the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary's tenure is set to come to an end next month, and she did an interview with the Daily Nation where she's been able to give an inside account of being at that particular arm of government for the past decade, since 2014. And she says one of the highlights is that, we can't speed up justice while we are so poorly funded. So the judiciary has been at the center of speaking on just being underfunded over a long period of time. And she's echoed that and says, we can't speed up justice while we are so poorly funded ourselves. Now, on terms of gender, the judiciary has more women than men. 51% of women in the total judiciary workforce, and Amadi says that the very few men are applying for positions advertised by the institution. So Anne Amadi will be leaving the corridors of the judiciary as the Chief Registrar of the judiciary. However, she also does have a law firm, and she's likely to go back to that. Now, COP28, Ruto calls for a global carbon treaty tech center stage in Dubai. Ruto's call for global carbon treaty tech center stage in Dubai. And Ruto called for a carbon tax, and this has won support as the push to totally phase out fossil fuels intensifies the world climate talks. However, Ruto left those particular COP28 talks in Dubai and headed to India, as we had earlier shown you on the footage. Also, striking MPs paralyzed sitting over CDF delays. Striking MPs paralyzed sitting over CDF delays, and they walk out to demand the release of 53 billion shillings. That is a story that is on page 5. Now, MPs paralyzed the sitting over the national government CDF delay, and the lawmakers' action paralyzed that session just 2 days before they go on a break. They're supposed to head to recess on Thursday. And the disgruntled MPs chanted outside the parliament while walking out of the sitting that was being presided over by the Deputy Speaker Gladys Boss-Sholei, scuttling a notice of motion for the House to go on recess for the December holiday. The long recess is set to start this Thursday and last until February next year. Attempts by Majority Whip and South Mogirango MP Silvana Sosoro to access the chambers were thwarted by the legislators who blocked the entrance for hours. So perhaps we could also once again take a look at that footage earlier on where MPs staged a walkout at the National Assembly. And we can take a look at that just to give you a peek of what exactly things, or how exactly things look like at the National Assembly.
Honorable TJ Kajwang. I have not completed the sentence. Honorable members. Honorable members.
Actually in the process of working on disbursement so that by the time we break, now,
honorable members, honorable members, honorable members, the point is being made.
The DF committee can confirm we must act with equity so that no constituency is left behind. There are about 36 constituencies whose proposals are yet to be received by the CDF committee. And what we have requested, I was asked to also request the 36 members of parliament whose NGCDF committees. And let me repeat again, for the interest of those who are fond of going to court. It is not the members of parliament for the 36 constituencies. It is the 36 members of parliament to cause, in their oversight role, their NGCDF committees to submit proposals to the board so that they are not left behind.
It is for the people of my constituency who are more important than any other thing being in this house in terms of any hierarchy or any position which I hold.
Well, the amount in question is 50 billion shillings of the national government CDF funds, to which members of parliament say the money is yet to be released for this particular financial year, despite that the financial year is almost halfway done since June of 2023. And because this is financial year 2023-2024, so the MPs say 50 billion shillings is yet to be disbursed, pardon me, to the accounts. Remember, this is part of the finances that is used to give to, to educate learners across the country, whether in high school, in primary, or in the colleges or higher educations, in higher learning institutions. And so the MPs say, learners are set to resume school in January, and parents will be looking up to them for bursaries, and they will not be able to provide if the National Treasury does not release the money. Now, that particular matter was brought up in the National Assembly by the Minority Leader Opiyo Wandayi and received support from across the political divide. As you've heard, even members from the ruling UDA party walked out and also prevented any MP from entering into the House for any particular sitting. Now, away from that, it will be a shocker for you as a borrower, as the Central Bank of Kenya is set to increase its interest rates in 11 years. Now, Kenyans should brace themselves for more expensive bank loans after the Central Bank of Kenya increased its benchmark lending rate to the highest point in 11 years, which subsequently affects the interest rates. When you borrow a loan, there's an interest rate that you pay with, so that is set to also be affected as the CBK moves to curb inflation and support the battered shilling. Now, this is after the Monetary Policy Committee increased the CBK rate to 12.5% from 10.5%, an increase of 2.5%, the highest since September 5th of 2012, when the rate was at 13%. Now, the new rate will usher in a fresh round of upward repricing of loans, dealing a blow to borrowers who are already grappling with elevated prices of goods and services and new statutory deductions. So this means, the interest rate in banks for loans that you take will also go up high, an issue that has been on the rise as well. Now, let's talk about something that happened within the corridors of courts that has been highlighted by both the Standard and the Star. Now, the Standard speaks on blow after blow as court serves Ruto bitter pill. blow after blow as court serves Ruto bitter pill. Not so fast. The International Criminal Court gave President William Ruto the most favorable ruling in recent times, but he is now forced into reality check by local courts on important decisions made by his government, which citizens feel are unconstitutional. That is a story that is on page 4 and 5 of the Standard. Now, the cases in limbo are quite a lot of cases which are basically just recent, perhaps policies that he was looking to put up in place. One, the housing levy was said to be unconstitutional by the High Court, a ruling that was made recently by a 3-judge bench led by Justice David Majanja. And the housing levy is said to be unconstitutional. However, there will still be deductions till January, where the government was given a period of 40 days to appeal that particular decision at the Court of Appeal. Now, the Maisha number as well, public participation never took place according to the court. Maisha number is basically something similar to what the Huduma number was, but this is just a different name called Maisha number, where these are digital IDs. And the court says public participation never took place. Now, the Chief Administrative Secretary as well, that was a position that was declared unconstitutional, despite the fact that there were various CASs that had been appointed by the head of state. The CS position was thrown out and declared unconstitutional, similar to what the former administration was told. On parastatals, they were suspended until next year when the case will be heard. The issue on Haiti, those are officers, 1,000 officers deployed to Haiti. Well, the issue was suspended, or the deployment was suspended, then the matter is still in court. Now, the Finance Act, parts of it was said to be unconstitutional, even as on matters logging, it was declared null and void. Now, according to William Ruto, on September 14th, 2022, when he got into office, he said Kenya can only be better if we become a country of the rule of law. Anything else leads to anarchy and confusion. Even as president, I have limitations and I should respect them. We must all live within our mandates, and it is the rule of law, not the rule of man. So, blow after blow, court served Ruto bitter pill in various cases. I could talk of 7 cases that have been suspended temporarily by the courts, just surrounding some of the policies that he had put in place, even as citizens push back against Ruto excesses. Now, most of these cases actually have just been filed by common citizens and activists within the Republic of Kenya. And so it is a big blow, particularly for a man who was very much, on the sidelines between 2018 to 2022 with the former administration that was led by President Uhuru Kenyatta, who also faced quite a number of pushbacks from the courts as well and citizens as well. And he was one of the people that really talked about the rule of law. And we saw him, say, particularly on his swearing in 2022, that he will be a man and his government would, follow the rule of law. And so it's a question of, will he now follow the rule of law now that it is him against the courts, or at least his government against the courts. So those are some of the cases that have been highlighted. Perhaps I'll take them again. On March 16, Ruto nominated 50 CSs for the position, 50 chief administrative secretaries. On July 3rd, the court termed the creation of the CSs unconstitutional. On November 28th, the housing levy was declared unconstitutional. On July 2nd, Ruto ordered a lift of a 6-year ban on logging, which basically, of course, we could feel the ripple effects of that after many citizens or Kenyans around forest areas moved into the forest. And a couple of months later, on October 12th, the Environment and Lands Court declared the directive null and void. Now, on October 9th, the court stopped the deployment of 1,000 police officers to Haiti. On October 24th, the orders were extended once again. On December 4th, the court halted the sale of 11 parastatals. On December 4th, the court halted the sale of 11 parastatals. And on December 5th, the High Court slammed the brakes on new generation identification cards called Maisha number. So the same has also been highlighted. Perhaps I'll cover them once and for all on the Star. which talks of court strike at heart of Ruto's legacy project. The Star talks of court strike at heart of Ruto's legacy project, the digital IDs, the sale of parastatals, the housing levy, among others, stopped. And that is a story that is on page 4 and page 5 of the Daily Nation. Oh, you should also add to that list the rollout of the Social Health Insurance Fund, which was also stopped eventually. Now, to other stories making headlines on the Standard, Kenya seeks 500 billion shillings to plant 15 billion trees. Kenya seeks 500 billion shillings to plant 15 billion trees. That as well a story on page 10 and page 11 of the Standard. A country that has been at the center of the fight against climate change. And now Kenya seeks 500 billion shillings to plant billions of trees in the next 10 years. That means 150 million seedlings have been planted in diverse areas, and Kenya eyes achieving 30% of tree cover by 2032. Now, with, you know, if I take you back a bit, there was also a holiday for tree planting. Question is, did you plant trees on that particular holiday? Even as Kenya seeks to extend its forest cover and to properly fight climate change. Also, Margaret Nyakango has made it to the headline, civil matter that sacked in budget boss. Now, the Standard, the Star speaks on teachers' health insurance hangs in the balance, as MPs inquiring into the multi-billion shillings teachers' medical scheme are now considering instructing Treasury to hold billions for the program until tutors' concerns are addressed. And they spoke after a snub by the insurers and vowed to stop the disbursement of 53 billion shillings if they prove the teachers' concerns. So those are the stories making headlines on the newspapers, but I'd also love to highlight something that happened in the sporting world. Talk about the under-18 men's team, Junior Stars, who, you know, performed quite very exceptionally well against Tanzania after extra time. Of course, a barren 0-0 draw, but won 4-3 to penalties. So I'd love to take a look at just the key moments in that game on the penalties that led Kenya to win against Tanzania in the CECAFA under-18 semi-finals, and they are set to face Uganda in the final. So let's take a look at that.
Okwera piga Aroko anafunga basi, matumaini ya Kenya yako vizuri, lakini Sharif Wilson ya moto amekamata Biblia. Nick Mwendwa wa shirikisho amekamata Biblia, wote wanamwombea Saifa Suwo. Mashabiki wamenyanyuka kwenye viti vyao. Hii ni penalti ambayo akiweka kiniani Kenya kwenye finali. Saifas Award.
Well, the scenes at the Jomo Kenyatta International Stadium in Kisumu, where the goalkeeper Ibrahim Wanzala saved his team after saving 2 penalties, and of course the winning goal right there. Now the Kakamega Homeboys young goalkeeper, who was the man of the match, saved 2 penalties as Kenya's Junior Stars went through to the finals of the 2023 Council of East and Central Africa Football, what we call CECAFA under-18 championships at a fully packed Jomo Kenyatta Stadium. The Salim Babu coached side knocked out a stubborn Tanzania 4-3 in post-match penalties to set up a date with arch rivals Uganda Junior Cranes in the final set for Friday at the same venue. Now, that is something that we'll be looking forward to this Friday to support the Junior Stars who are into the finals. However, not quite a smiley Starlets after the end of the road for a wasteful Harambee Starlets. And once again, Kenya's Harambee Starlets missed a penalty as they were bundled out of the 2024 WAFCON qualifiers. Starlets' dream of returning to the continental showpiece was shuttered down after losing 1-0 to Botswana. as the Mares qualified on a 2-1 aggregate score in the final round of the qualifiers played at the Gaborone National Stadium in Botswana. Now, the Beldin Odemba coach charges needed a win away to ensure return to the continental competition for the first time since 2016. But the same fate befell Starlets again after Cynthia Shilwatso failed to score from the spot 8 minutes into the second half. Let's take a look.
1.75 meters Kabulele. Former national under 20. Abotswana ba tshwere pele ba tsata pele ba sireletsa ababaka sikuto e ba sala ba.
Well, that's not the only penalty that was missed in the first leg at Nyayo Stadium. Violet Nanjala squandered a precious opportunity that would have given them an advantage ahead of the second leg in Gaborone, as she missed the penalty that saw the match end 1-1. So that is what was happening on the sporting world, but I hope that you're up to date on what is happening on the newspapers. The Standard speaks on blow after blow as court serves Ruto bitter pill, while the Star speaks on court strike at heart of Ruto's legacy projects, with the Daily Nation speaking on under siege Margaret Nyangate Nyakango, who is facing a battle to save her job. Well, those are your headlines on the newspapers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to end this broadcast a little bit earlier, as we were expecting Dr. Motiso JM to come in to speak on tuberculosis, one of the emerging diseases in the country and across the continent. But unfortunately, due to unavoidable circumstances, he couldn't make it this morning. However, we will try to pin him down once again to come in studio and speak on this particular emerging issue. Tuberculosis, what is it? How does it come about? What do we need to do to prevent it? So apologies for that, but that is where we want to wrap our broadcast this morning. Thank you for your lovely company. My name is Cynthia Nanjala.